always grew up hearing that a man was only as good as his word. But let's be honest here. When was the last time that you trusted anything that came out of somebody's mouth? Now, there was a time in this country when a man's word was his bond. That man's word was as good as gold. A simple handshake could close $1 million contract, no lawyer needed. But fast forward to today, most men's words, they don't mean shit anymore. So there was a time in this country when a man's word was a lot like his credit score. And that's how people judge that man. And a lot of men protected their word just like they protect their credit score. So if a man said he was going to do something, you best believe it was going to get done. Because to break your word, most men weren't going to do that, because breaking your word risked losing everything. Not only did you have to answer to yourself, but you had to answer to your community. And in those days, your community held you accountable. So if you didn't do exactly what you said you were going to do, that word got around, and it got around quick, and everybody knew about it. And so now people would look at you differently, and they'd even treat you differently. But at some point, everything went and changed. Lawyers and contracts and fine print and little loopholes got introduced into the mix. So now, instead of honoring the word like we always had, everybody is looking for a way to wiggle out of their obligation. And then the internet came into being, and God, that just made everything so much worse. Because now anybody can hide behind a screen, totally anonymous. They can make all kind of grandiose promises and never have to worry about living up to them. But to me, the worst part of that was those people never worry about suffering any consequences behind breaking their promises. And see, that's exactly how we ended up where we're at today. People in that whole zero accountability mentality. It seeped into our friendships and our personal relationships. And it's just unfortunate that so many people feel comfortable nowadays giving you their word and then turning right around and breaking it. I guess that's just the new normal now. I mean, just stop and think about some of the common lies that we hear all the time, and we don't even think about them anymore. Oh, I got your back. I'll be there for you. I'll always be in your corner. Really? But when you really need them, where are they? Gone. Gone like the wind. Nowhere to be found. Or this one. Yeah, give me your number. I'm going to call you. I'm going to handle. We're going to get together. Really? And they knew that when they said it, they were lying. And you knew they were lying because you heard it so many times. It's just another one of those lies that we've learned to accept. We hear it and can keep right on moving. And the worst part of all this is, it doesn't just stop with the broken promises to our friends. It bleeds right down to the people closest to us. Because that lack of accountability in what we say just becomes normal, becomes a part of who we are. So those promises that we made to the people that we claim to love, honoring those promises becomes an option. We don't have to if we don't want to. And commitments that we made to them that were once written in stone, and we would have died before we broke them. Now they're flexible. And when everything in your life becomes flexible, that means that even your wedding vows don't matter anymore. The very vows that you took before God, and the contract that you made, doesn't matter. You don't have to honor it anymore. And that calls into play trust. And as I've always said, love equals trust. So every lie and every betrayal takes away a little bit of that love. And no matter how much you may love someone or you're in love with them, if they betray you enough, that love will leave. Think of a savings account where a person only makes withdrawals. No matter how much money's in that account, eventually at some point, that account's going to run dry. And honestly, after living like that for so long, it starts to do something to you. Living with that constant fear and anxiety of having been betrayed, it starts to fuck with your self-worth, starts to fuck with your head. So now you're always guarded and you're always wondering, when's it going to happen again? So now you feel unsafe and isolated, and it makes it so much harder to trust anybody or anything. And you learn through your own personal experience that it's just so much easier to put up a wall and keep people out than to let anybody in. And see, this not only affects you, it affects your whole community. Because no one trusts each other anymore. No one believes that people are going to do what they say. So now, as a result, you can't organize anything to help the community because people won't show up for it. And your volunteer efforts, well, they collapse. Because everybody will say they'll be there, they'll donate, or I'll help do this, or I'll help do that. But in reality, they won't, because people's word doesn't mean shit anymore. And you can't build the foundation for a stronger community on a bunch of broken promises. I mean, community itself is based on trust, unity, and family. And it's kind of hard to have those when nobody's keeping their word anymore. And I often sit around and I wonder, how in the hell did we get here? And I'm not sure anybody really has an answer for that question. I think there's a lot of reasons why. But I do know that at some point, society itself changed. But we all just stopped caring about breaking our word. We stopped worrying about consequences and repercussions. It just became the new normal, so to speak. It's just what everybody does now. We somewhere along the way lost that sense of pride we once had. Because back in the day, you would have been shamed beyond belief for breaking your word, but not nowadays. But breaking your word nowadays is about as common as Taco Tuesdays. So how in the hell do we get back from here? Well, I believe we still got a way back. It just has to start in-house on an individual basis. First off, our word has to start to mean something again. We have to value that again. So when you give somebody your word, always under-promise and over-deliver. That way, that person is always pleased, and it'll help build up that trust in you again. And I get it. This is life, real life. Shit happens. So if you have to break your word, be a man. Be honest about it. Own that shit. Acknowledge that for whatever reason, you couldn't fulfill your promise. But try your damnedest, whatever it takes to make it right with that person. And when you do that, when you man up, even though you broke your word, people appreciate that. They can respect you more, and that trust won't take a big hit. So what can we do as individuals to alleviate this problem? I'll be honest with you. When a whole society adopts a way of thinking, a certain mentality, it becomes damn near impossible to change that. So stop worrying about trying to change all of society. Instead, focus on the things that you can control right in front of you. That's your circle. So make sure that the people around you and your loved ones and everybody that's important to you is keeping their word. They're guarding it like a credit score. And that's a start. And as your circle spreads out and grows and gets bigger and bigger, and before you know it, you've affected the whole community now. And your community in turn will affect another community. And one community at a time is how we change the country back to how it should be. And I'll be honest with you, I miss those days. I miss the days when a man's word actually meant something. And can we get that back? Well, I believe we can get that mentality back. We can get back to when a man's word actually meant something. Now, are people going to be willing to put in the work necessary to do that? That's the question. We've become so accustomed to a certain amount of leisure in this country. Most people don't want to work anymore. Not physically work, but any kind of work. But work is necessary for change. I don't honestly know when that mentality changed. There was a time in this country when respect, accountability really meant something. But now everything is smoke and mirrors. Nothing's what it seems to be anymore. And again, repercussions, consequences. There doesn't seem to be a lot of that anymore. That was the glue that held everything together. When you were worried about a consequence for your action, you tended to make better decisions. But hey, I'm not going to overcomplicate this. I'm not going to overthink it. If you have any thoughts or ideas or anything you want to share on this, please, by all means, drop it down in the comments and let's talk about it. A man is only as good as his word. I truly believe that. And if I can't trust your word, I can't trust the man. But hey, at any rate, I'm up. Take care of yourself and each other. Kindness, love, respect. We all need these right now. But hey, I'll catch you guys in the next one.